After being unseen for several weeks, Chinese President Xi Jinping has now resurfaced, missing the BRICS summit for the first time. Has Xi lost favor with the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army? Joining us to share his thoughts is China analyst with the Gatestone Institute, Gordon Chang. His most recent book is Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Gordon, the CCP's political bureau took steps late last month to lessen Xi's authority, giving him more power to, or actually giving more power to central commissions. And also, he may have fallen into disfavor with some generals within the People's Liberation Army. So tell us what's happening. Is Xi on the way out?
Xi Jinping certainly is weakened, Gary. And we can see this most clearly in the Chinese military, where Xi Jinping loyalists are disappearing. Now, a lot of people say that Xi Jinping is sacking his own people, but that's probably not true. And the reason is we have seen in PLA Daily, which is the main propaganda organ of the Chinese military, a series of articles from the middle of last year praising collective leadership. That's a direct slap at Xi Jinping, which means that these articles could not have appeared if Xi Jinping were controlling the military, which means it's more likely that Xi Jinping's adversaries are sacking Xi Jinping's loyalists in uniform. Now, in the civilian area, the corroboration is not as clear, but nonetheless, there are many signs that Xi Jinping has been weakened, including those regulations on June 30 from the Politburo that you just talked about. They clearly are limiting Xi Jinping's power. Xi Jinping missing the BRICS summit is a real sign of weakening influence. People think that he could lose his 3 important posts. Some people say he'll be kept on as a figurehead. But clearly right now, there's a lot of turmoil in the Chinese regime. And the Chinese regime right now is not stable.
Well, Xi led what he described as an anti-corruption campaign against military generals. Was it a genuine anti-corruption effort, or was it him eliminating his opponents from the military?
He was eliminating his opponents from the military. We know that corrupt generals were indeed disappeared, but almost every general and admiral is corrupt in the Chinese military. So corruption is not the reason why. Xi Jinping was consolidating his control. And at one time, if we go back maybe 3 or so years ago, Xi Jinping was in full control of the Chinese military. And it was not only his purges that you just referred to, it was also his radical and very successful restructuring of the People's Liberation Army in the middle of last decade. That gave Xi a lot of power to change generals, and he did that. But right now, he has lost control of the most powerful faction in the Communist Party, which is the Chinese military.
Gordon, you and I discussed, I think it was probably 9 years ago, he was given a special leader status, only previously given to Mao Zedong. And then term limits were thrown out. He's now, what, I think in his unprecedented 3rd term as president and Communist Party general secretary. So would he voluntarily step down or be forced out? Why?
Yeah, it's very unlikely that he is voluntarily giving up power, because that's not his style. He has spent his time at the top of the Communist Party accumulating power. And what's happened is when he accumulated power, he also accumulated accountability. And he is now being blamed for the simultaneous crises that are afflicting China. If you were Xi Jinping in 2017, you were on top of the world because you were getting credit for everything that was happening, which looked good for China. But if you're Xi Jinping in the COVID crisis or post-COVID, you're being blamed for everything, and properly so. So life is very, very difficult.
Trump says that the U.S. has a good relationship now with China. So what effect have Trump's tariffs had on Xi Jinping and China, and is a final deal close?
I don't think a final deal is close. China may agree to something, but they're not going to comply. And we saw that. We already had a trade deal with China May 12th, and China just promptly violated its obligations. It did not resume exports of rare earth as it promised to do. So, yeah, we may end up with a deal with China, but I don't think it's going to be comprehensive. And if it is, China's not just going to comply. They haven't complied with their trade deals from the time they joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. So why should they start doing so now? I just don't think that that's reasonable to expect.
And Gordon, quickly, I know this week Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins unveiled a National Farm Security Action Plan addressing China's purchase of U.S. farmland, especially near military bases. How serious is it? What do you expect to happen on that front?
I think eventually we will see prohibitions of Chinese nationals purchasing U.S. farm and ranch land. And, got to remember, no American can own a square inch of land in China. So why do we allow Chinese nationals to own square miles of land in our country, especially when we know that some of them are using them for malign purposes?
Okay, Gordon Chang, Gatestone Institute China analyst, author of the book Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Thank you, Gordon, for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.